We make Thorazine for guys like the one highlighted in a recent Newsbites newswire. A suspected member of the Al-Qaeda terrorist network claimed that Islamic militants infiltrated Microsoft and sabotaged the company's Windows XP operating system. Mohammad Afrozi Abdul Razak, arrested by Mumbai Bombay police October 2, claimed that a member or members of Osama bin Laden's Al-Qaeda network, posing as computer programmers, were able to gain employment at Microsoft and attempted to plant Trojans, trapdoors, and bugs in Windows XP. British intelligence officials have dismissed the claims. A defense attorney hired by Afrozi's father, a tailor by profession, reportedly asked the court to allow Afrozi to receive a psychiatric examination, but was rejected. Afrozi, who is scheduled to provide a formal confession before a Mumbai court, told the magistrate that he does not wish legal representation and is mentally sound. Visit newsbites.com and read the entire newswire if you want to laugh some more at Al-Qaeda's expense. Page 2. If you ever wondered how far the media will go to print a computer security story, then stop wondering. I'll admit Microsoft employs quite a few hermits, but cave dwellers? Al-Qaeda members ride horses in Afghanistan, strap guns to their hips, and crash airplanes into skyscrapers. Afrozi wants us to think they ride recumbent bicycles in Redmond, strap cell phones to their hips, and crash operating systems on the internet. So Afrozi's father is a tailor by profession, eh? Fascinating. Sadly, Newsbites correspondent Brian McWilliams didn't tell us what type of clothing Afrozi's father hems for a living. I wish reporters would provide more irrelevant trivia in computer security stories. McWilliams wasted his time when he called Microsoft for a response, and Microsoft spokesmodel Jim Dessler wasted his time when he took the call. McWilliams quoted him as saying, Afrozi's claims about the company were bizarre and unsubstantiated and should be treated skeptically. Do tell. If you ask me, Dessler should have laughed into the phone and said, hang on while I transfer you to Mr. Click. Click. Rotten.com deserves credit for providing the most concise summary. This is a preposterous story, mentioned here for its humor value. ... Page 3. A preposterous story? You bet. Microsoft can insert bugs in Windows XP without bin Laden's help. But we can't go on without mentioning Richard Digital Pearl Harbor Clark, the White House's top demoted fearmonger. Clark's career path depends on Thorazine-deprived twerps like Afrozi. We could normally expect Bush's left hand to drive around the Beltway's token ring, waving the Newsbites newswire above his head as proof, I tell you, of a horrifying cyber threat. Given the ongoing spat between the feds and Microsoft, we could normally even expect Clark to call for a top-down review of hiring practices in the critical operating system infrastructure. I mean, how else can you explain the inclusion of full raw sockets support in Windows XP? Only an ingenious cyber terrorist could deceive Microsoft into following an entrenched internet specification. Good grief, maybe Al-Qaeda did infiltrate Microsoft. I've got 2 words for Clark. Nuke Seattle. Better safe than sorry. But notice how I said we could normally expect White House hysteria to spawn from a cranial dihydrogen monoxide sufferer like Afrozi. Cranial dihydrogen monoxide sufferer. That's water on the brain if you missed the reference. These delusions couldn't come at a worse time for Clark. He recently invited Microsoft's chief security officer to work for him in the Office of Homeland Cybersecurity. If Clark raised a stink about Afrozi's claims, nosy reporters would smell an odor coming from one of his own underlings. This leads me to believe Clark will dismiss Afrozi's police confession as the diary of a madman. You can bet he and Schmidt will load Microsoft operating systems on their PCs. But we can't count on everyone to dismiss the ravings of a lunatic. History suggests this newswire will devolve into yet another legend spouted by security experts. This industry exploits any hysteria it can lay its hands on, no matter how unbelievable or undocumented. In the words of expert Dan Irwin, it's in the press, so I can use it to frighten people. Page 4. Ironically, if any infiltration took place at Microsoft, the trail will probably lead back to Clark, not bin Laden. Schmidt recently testified before Congress as Microsoft's CSO, but he spoke with Richard Clark's voice. Indeed, his written testimony came right out of Clark's handbook. To put it bluntly, Clark testified before Congress in Microsoft's name, not Schmidt. Next thing you know, Microsoft will join hands with the government and sing Kumbaya. If Clark infiltrated Microsoft, as I suspect, the organizational chart would go something like this. Microsoft's CEO provides orders and guidance to the CIO, who, along with Richard Clark, provides orders and guidance to the CSO. This organizational chart may or may not die when Schmidt finally tenders his resignation from Microsoft to join Clark's office. I say may or may not because we don't yet know how deep Clark's tentacles reach inside the company. Frankly, I can't understand why the government wants to play the role of a hidden puppet master. Why skulk around with secret conditions for Schmidt's employment? The feds should just be open about it and put Clark in charge of an office of cyber censorship. We're at war, right? I think cyber censorship is a small price to pay if it results in safer computing for us all. I'm Rob Rosenberger for vMyths. That's VMYTHS.com. Truth about computer virus hysteria. Be there or be scared.